So this is Penuel, the Black Pen, making my second video on Young Women in Business Network, CFI, and Mutual Bank. CFI being a cooperative financial institution, and the mutual bank license that they're currently looking to acquire. I'm going to try and take my time because I want to go through some of the points that Nthabeleng Likotsi raised in her press conference that was released yesterday or the day before. I think it might have been the day before. So I hope I won't forget any of the things that I deemed were important. Just to give a bit of context, maybe for anyone who's watching this video independently and has not heard the story. Nthabeleng Likotsi is a lady in South Africa who is trying to register a mutual bank, specifically for Black women. Because Black women, I'd like to think, in South Africa have been the most oppressed and excluded from the economy. Very great initiative, very great idea. They started in 2009, so it's been, I think, 11 years now, if I'm not mistaken, 12 years, if I'm not mistaken. They started in 2009, and they managed to this day, get to 600 members and to raise 21 million rand, which I think is incredibly impressive for anyone. Started off, I think, as a Stokvel. People that know Stokvels, these are savings clubs, small savings clubs in South Africa. There is rumored to be over 800,000 Stokvels in South Africa, with between 40 to 55 billion rand that is collected every single year. So Stokvels are a very important aspect of our economy in South Africa, and I feel like they haven't been fully exploited. Nthabeleng set up one, and today, here we are. A cooperative financial institution is registered in South Africa, and there's a couple of requirements that are needed. The two most important being that you need at least 200 members, and the second one being that you need at least 100,000 rand in money that has been collected. That's about 500 rand per person if there's 200 of you. So they managed to meet this requirement, and they registered as a CFI. From being a CFI, the next point that you're supposed to graduate to is to become a mutual bank. Mutual bank requirements are more stricter than a CFI, and it's a step forward towards getting to a retail bank in South Africa. Retail banks are the banks that you guys know: Absa, FNB, Nedbank, Capitec, Standard Bank, and maybe a couple of others. A mutual bank is less onerous than a retail bank. That means it has less requirements. It's not as strict. However, because it's not as strict, it also means there's certain things that you can't do as a mutual bank. First important thing to know about a mutual bank is that all the people that deposit money into this mutual bank become the shareholders and are entitled to votes. So if you deposit money into a mutual bank, you then become a shareholder. It doesn't operate like a retail bank, which can have shareholders that are separate. And those shareholders don't necessarily have to even put money into that bank. They can just own shares in that bank and earn dividends. In a mutual bank, you deposit money, you become a shareholder. A CFI, what Nthabeleng and the YWBN network had, the CFI had certain things it could do, which is investing some of their money, which is also loaning out money. Unfortunately, they could only loan out money to their 600 members. They couldn't loan to anyone outside of that. With a mutual bank, however, you can then loan out money to the public at large as long as they meet certain criteria. So that's one of the big things that they wanted. However, one of the big differences, so I still don't fully wrap my head around this concept: fractional reserve banking. Fractional reserve banking means a bank can loan out money based on the reserves that they have in the bank. There's something called Basel capital requirements, fancy regulations in the banks, which is meant to protect depositors and meant to protect the bank. I think every bank needs to keep at least 10% of cash in the bank in case anything happens. So if a bank has 1 million rand, this is where now they talk about making money out of thin air. If a bank has 1 million rand in cash in the bank, they are able to loan out 10 million rand out there. That didn't exist before. With a mutual bank, however, if you've got 1 million rand, you can only loan out this 1 million rand. So the mutual bank cannot create money out of thin air like retail banks. However, it can loan out money. One of the things I found myself asking was, if it's such a mission to set up a mutual bank, why not just set up a loan shop? Loan shops in South Africa, Atlas Finance, Likotsi Finance, I think Bridge Loans, and a couple of others. All you need to do is register with the National Credit Regulator, the NCR, which is governed by the National Credit Act. From there, you can loan out money to the world. You're not a bank. You're not allowed to accept deposits. However, you can accept investments. And when I listened to Nthabeleng, and I think Manzini is the gentleman that she was dealing with, the way they were pitching the mutual bank, and even when I went to read up on mutual banks, I realized that a mutual bank is just a fancy investment fund. That's essentially what it is. People put money in, we call it deposits. You can't transact. It's not like a retail bank. You can't be getting a card, you can't be swiping, you can't be pulling money in and out, transferring cash, etc. The money sits almost as an investment. But even worse than a normal investment fund, your money is locked in. For how long is your money locked in? Forever. I learned this and I thought it was very interesting. With mutual banks, there are permanent shareholders, permanent depositors. You put your money in and you can never get it out. Which means there's only two ways for a person who's joined a mutual bank to earn money or to potentially get out. The first one is to earn dividends on your deposit. So if the bank is making profits and you guys as the shareholders decide we want to declare dividend, you can then earn dividends on your deposit. The second thing is that you can sell your stake in the mutual bank, provided that the board of directors agrees. But you can sell it. That's the only way for you to get out. It's the only way for you to earn money. You can't pull money out, put money in, etc. So I thought that was very interesting. So the 5 billion rand that Nthabeleng and them are trying to raise, if they ever get to it, even if they raise 500 million, that money will never come out, which is very, very interesting. Forever. So Nthabeleng was asked a lot of questions, and sadly, she struggled to be as eloquent as people would like. We live in a country where most black people love English. And if you speak good English, then they deem you smart. It's a product of colonization. It's a product of television. And I guess it's a product of what we deem professionalism. The better your English, the more eloquent and confident you sound, and the bigger the English words that you use, then the more people think you're intelligent and you're competent. I was watching a video of Vusi Tembekwayo speaking to a hero of mine, Sadhguru, last night, and he was using words such as ephemeral. And I was like, geez. So people like English. And Nthabeleng, unfortunately, sounds more like a comrade, like an EFF member, you know. And on top of that, obviously, she's emotional. And I don't think she plans and researches some of her answers the way she probably should, especially when you're pitching to get people to put their money in. Money that, as I've said, they'll never get out. So she was asked a couple of questions. I probably should have listed those questions because I felt she didn't really answer them properly. So the two things that their mutual bank is going to be selling, products. These are called banking products. The first one is savings. So you put money in and then you earn dividends. That operates like a fixed deposit. I wish I could say it operates like a 32-day notice, but it doesn't. In a 32-day notice account, you can put your money in and then you can tell the bank, I'd like to withdraw all or some of my money after 32 days, and you can get your money back. Unfortunately, a mutual bank, you can't ask for your money back. However, you can earn dividends. So it's like a fixed deposit, except you won't get your initial capital out. The second thing that they're selling is loans to businesses, business loans, more especially to people that are in tenders. One of the questions was asked, if I'm an employee, I don't have a business, how am I going to benefit from this bank outside of the dividends? And unfortunately, she didn't understand the question, and she spoke about employees can become self-employed, you can put money in the bank. The person just wanted to ask, can I get a loan from the bank as an individual and apply to maybe buy a car, to buy a fridge, whatever the case may be. She didn't answer that, and I'd like to think the answer is no, because their product is business loans. So it won't be personal loans for individuals that are just looking for cash, unless they are planning to add more products or to structure even their business loans to allow individuals to get loans for something. There are people that take out loans to extend their homes, to renovate their kitchens, whatever the case may be. And there's a chance that they won't be able to offer that. So they're going to be offering loans specifically to small businesses is what they said they're looking for. Second point that I want to raise is a lot of people asked about the 5 billion rand, and I think she failed again to fully articulate what they were trying to say. Nthabeleng says, according to research in South Africa, there is 475 billion rand, 475 billion rand of people that either do not have bank accounts or people who have bank accounts but are struggling to get banking products. So I have an account with Capitec or I have an account with Standard Bank, but every time I apply for loans, I get rejected. Or I have a small business and I have an account with FNB and I try to apply for a business loan and I get rejected. Or I'm a hawk on the street. I sell tomatoes and potatoes and bananas, but I do not have a bank account. Or I'm a taxi driver and everything I do is cash. I do not have a bank account. All of these people apparently come up to 475 billion rand. And I know from experience, because I worked at Absa and I worked at Standard Bank, that the unbanked and the unserved and the underserved market is a huge, huge market for banks. They're constantly trying to gain access to. It's almost like when the rest of the world says Africa is a sleeping giant and they want to come and set up all these companies, because Africa has not been exploited from a capitalist perspective, from a civilization perspective. We've been exploited obviously in terms of getting our minerals sucked out, exploiting our labor. But in terms of building a first world continent, there's so much land in South Africa. Buildings haven't been built, commercial farms haven't been set up, etc., etc. So in the same type of mind frame, there's a lot of people in this country who have not been fully exploited by the banking industry. Banking industry is about making money. Their business is selling money and selling financial products. So they want to make sure that they get as much money as possible from all the people out there. So they have all these fancy accounts where you pay zero fees, lowered fees, you get a minimum number of transactions for a small fee, because they're constantly trying to serve these unbanked, underserved, unserved people. Today we have Stokvels accounts, for example. So Nthabeleng wants to try and serve those people. 475 billion. And they're saying they only want 1.2% of this entire market, which then comes up to 5 billion rand. They are looking to serve 1.2% of the 475 billion rand market, which comes up to 5 billion. That does not mean that their bank is going to be worth 5 billion. That does not mean that they need 5 billion to set up the bank and get the license from the South African Reserve Bank and the Registrar of Banks. All it means is that there is a market and they would like to serve 1.2% of that market, and they believe that is 5 billion rand. And that's the 5 billion they are trying to raise. They are trying to raise money. If you hear people need 100 cows somewhere, and you say people need 100 cows, we just want to get them 10% of the cows, that means you need to get 10 cows. That's what they are saying. And they are saying, please help us get the 10 cows so we can serve 10% of that market. It's not the value of the bank. It's not how much they need to set up. I think this is very important because a lot of people may have missed that. The 5 billion rand is 1.2% of the market they are trying to serve. It is not a valuation of their bank, and it is not how much they need to set up. When asked how much they need to set up, we got two interesting answers, both very, very sad. The first answer was that she doesn't know how much they need to set up. She says they asked their auditors, how much will it cost to set up? And the auditors say they don't know. Apparently, they are waiting for technology guys who are currently building an app, who are supposed to then inform them this is actually how much it's going to cost. Why are they building an app? Because Nthabeleng insists they will not have branches, so you will not walk into a YWBN banking branch like there's a Capitec and an FNB and an Absa. They won't have branches. They will be a digital bank. Time Bank is a digital bank. It doesn't have branches. I'd like to think Discovery Bank is going to be a digital bank. There's a chance that Zero Bank, Michael Jordan, is going to be a digital bank as well. So you'll be doing all your transactions via phone. Unfortunately, like I said, with mutual banks, there are no real transactions. So all you can do is deposit money into that bank and maybe collect your dividends and then also apply for your business loans. But everything will be done digitally. and they need people to build that app, and they don't know how much that's going to cost. Unfortunately, it could be 100,000 rand, could be 5 million, could be 20 million. We don't know. They don't know. They're trying to raise money to build the stuff, but they don't know how much it's going to cost. That's the first answer she gave. The second answer she gave was, it's going to be less than 100 million rand. But this is a thumbsuck figure. She doesn't know how much it's going to cost, but she's saying it won't be more than 100 million, which is very sad because it might be more than 100 million and it might be much, much less. And my whole thing was they should be pitching to people out there, guys, please help us set up this thing. We need 10 million, 100 million to set up this thing. And then we would like to raise a fund of 5 billion rand to serve 1.2% of the unbanked, unserved, underserved market. Then people can be clear that to set up, these people need X amount of money, which, like I said, number one, she doesn't know. And number two, she says it's going to be under 100 million rand. Last night, when she was being interviewed on Metro FM by Ayabonga Kawe, she was more firm on the 100 million rand. But because we watched the press conference, we know that this is not a real figure. It's a thumbsuck figure. She doesn't know how much it's going to cost, which is very, very sad. So people need to know what they're putting money up for. If people donate 5 million, 20 million, and that's how much it costs to set up, if they don't get the license, that money is gone. It's not coming back. Unfortunately, it's not coming back. However, if they do set up the bank, that money will be for setup. It won't be money they can loan to other people. It will have already been used. Hopefully, as they make profit, they will get that money back and hopefully give it back to the portion of the people whose money was used to set up the bank. People wanted to know, you guys have a CFI, 600 members, raised 21 million rand. Why don't you use that money? Now, I can only speculate, very sadly, because Usiswa Bantu doesn't know how to explain well. She was busy using water bottles, telling us about expensive letter, and you bring the money, and with this expensive letter and the money, we have our bank. She kept emphasizing that, and it became a joke and a meme, of course. But she was failing to articulate why are they not using the 21 million rand that's been raised to set up the bank and then get people to invest the 5 billion as working capital to loan out money. No, the CFI is separate. People are not investing in the CFI. It's a separate thing. That doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense to me because my understanding, the South African Reserve Bank gave them a letter of authorization saying, we will let you guys finish your requirements for the mutual bank. You apply for that. For you to get the license, there are certain things that are missing that we need from you. And once we've ticked those boxes, we can then give you the license. But to give you this letter of authorization, there's certain things you must show us. What are those things? I'd like to think a normal person can't go to the South African Reserve Bank or to the registrar and just get this letter. There's something that they must show. And my understanding of what they showed was the CFI, this YWBN CFI with 600 members and 21 million rand. And the letter of authorization was given on that condition, which tells me that the CFI has to graduate into a mutual bank. They cannot be separate. So one of the things she spoke about, very sad, people asked about their previous financials. And she said, you can't see previous financials. That's not important. We are now in a Rolls Royce. You're asking for a Jetta 1. Can we not focus on the Rolls Royce? Forget the Jetta 1. It will do nothing for you. That's very misleading. Again, going back to the letter that she was speaking about. The registrar, the South African Reserve Bank, said, we want to see your payslip. You have a job. You have a payslip. You earn certain money. You're trying to apply for a car, the Rolls Royce, right? But you have a payslip. I'd like to see your payslip. After they saw the payslip, which is the CFI, 600 members, 21 million rand, they said, this looks great. However, before we give you guys the car, there's other requirements that are missing. And to get the car, maybe they're asking for, do you have a driver's license? Who's going to be driving the car? In this case, Nthabeleng is not clear on what are the things that are missing. One of them that we know is that the South African Reserve Bank wants pre-approved auditors. So their CFI had auditors, but they were saying, no, It might be Deloitte, KPMG, Pricewaterhouse, Ernst & Young. These are the auditors that work with the South African Reserve Bank. We want you guys to work with these guys. So that's one of the things that's missing. Sort it out for your payslip. After that, maybe you need a bit more money. Maybe go set up. Show us this proof of concept. Show us this app. Show us that the app is working. People can send money, etc. Now with your payslip and these other requirements, we can now issue you with the license, which is this car, this Rolls Royce that you want. We're asking Nthabeleng, can we please see that payslip that you got or that you used to get this letter of authorization before we add these other requirements, which will then lead to the Rolls Royce. And she's saying the payslip is not important. Forget about the payslip. This is a Jetta one. We're not here. It's not even brought on the table, which I think is highly misleading. I found myself thinking in my head, are people at the South African Reserve Bank watching this lady speaking? And if they're watching her speaking, are they maybe going to reach out to her and tell her, sis, you're wrong for what you're saying? You're misleading people. Or are they just going to wait until she submits everything and then say, look, we watched all of your stuff, and unfortunately you lied and you didn't meet requirements and whatever, so you can't get the license because I don't think you understand what it is that you're doing. Stokvels graduates to CFI. CFI applies to the South African Reserve Bank and graduates into a mutual bank. Now, if you're going to say we had a Stokvels, great. It became a CFI, great. But now we're setting up a mutual bank which is independent of the CFI. That doesn't make sense to me. And last night, Nthabeleng no Manzino Metro FM was saying the CFI is going to be disbanded, it's going to be cancelled, and the guys in the CFI are going to go and set up a new entity. And that new entity will then invest in the mutual bank. It blows my mind how the South African Reserve Bank would even allow that. My understanding is that the CFI will cease to exist as soon as they get a mutual banking license, because the CFI is graduating into a mutual bank. But she failed to articulate and answer that, and her answers around that were very concerning for someone like myself. And again, this is probably why a lot of people were saying it would be nice if she had a spokesperson. It would be nice if she wasn't the person answering all the questions, etc., because people are not understanding. And it's not just clever blacks. I've already got my own issues with clever blacks, but even just normal people that just want to get answers to questions. I believe Nthabeleng can succeed in the mutual bank if she keeps going. The world belongs to fighters. The world belongs to people with high self-confidence, even if they are talking rubbish, even if they don't know what they're talking about, even if they lack the skills, etc. Just on voice alone, if you judge DJ Sbu, he should have never been on radio. Oi, oi! His voice was not built for radio. But he pushed, he was a fighter, and he had high self-confidence, and he had a great show, especially on YFM, the DJ Sbu Breakfast Club, which I used to listen to religiously in 2008. Person like Donald Trump, a clown, celebrity, you're fired. Like, that guy will never become president. Believed in himself, he fought, high self-confidence, went and became president. DJ Sbu with the more fire story. Trevor Noah came as just this colored boy from South Africa who doesn't even have a varsity degree. Went to America, did his thing, and today he's presenting The Daily Show, multi-millionaire, a great success story. Fighters win in this world. So if Nthabeleng keeps fighting, she can make it. But here's the difference. When you're fighting, you need to get the feedback from people and keep pivoting. DJ Sbu would go and fight and kick down doors, and he claimed that he was on Forbes, etc. And every time he got the feedback, he'd take the feedback and process it and come back better and harder and smarter. And he got his products into Spar and Pick and Pay and whatever because he was willing to listen. So Nthabeleng has to be willing to listen and not be emotional about what people are saying, but keep fighting and hire the right people. And take the questions and take the concerns, whether it's Koshi Karan or it's Penwell on Twitter, whoever it is, listen to the questions, get smart people to give you the right answers, rehearse the questions, rehearse the answers. And when you do, she can make a YouTube video like me and just be like, guys, I'd like to try again and answer. I wanted to make this example about Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg was advised to get a champion CEO, to get someone who speaks very well. The things that we're doing at Facebook and the privacy. And Mark Zuckerberg said, no, I want to be the CEO. Mark Zuckerberg can't fucking speak well. He looks like a pale alien. But he was like, I want to keep trying. And he keeps getting better and he keeps getting better and he keeps gaining confidence. Sucks. He's awkward. He's a bit weird. He's got no charisma, cracks lame jokes, but he's trying. So Nthabeleng does not have to be eloquent, but she does have to fight. She does have to have high self-confidence, and she has to take feedback and keep pivoting so she can become better. One of the other things about mutual banks is that every year your license has to be renewed. So you can have a mutual bank for 5 years, and if you're not meeting certain requirements, you can have your license revoked at any given time. People that are going to put money in, guys, your money is going to be locked in for 6 years. And after that 6 years, it's not guaranteed that you're going to make returns. It's not guaranteed that the bank is going to make money. Another very sad thing that Nthabeleng didn't touch on is the business aspect of the bank. She sounds like someone who's never run a real business before. If you run a business, there are operational costs. There are operational costs. You can't just assume that you're going to make profit. Some people ask about risk mitigation. Risk mitigation is nice English for how will you make sure that people pay back? How will you make sure that even if you lose money, you lose as little money as possible? What are you guys going to do about that? Because you're giving out loans and we know businesses crash. And they want to go into the SMME space, which has a bad reputation for success. Businesses crash. SMMEs crash because government doesn't pay for their tenders and they fall and they have to pay employees. So as a bank, what's your business model? How much are you targeting? We're targeting, if we can manage to raise not 5 billion, but let's be conservative. Let's say we manage to raise 200 million rand and we're hoping to make 10% a year, which is 20 million in terms of returns. From the 20 million, we're looking at salaries and other wages of about 10 million rand. And then there's 10 million rand of which about 5 million will go into operations. That's going to be your marketing, billboards, banners, social media, whatever the case may be. Other operations, technological costs, any other things used to run our branches, petty cash, any other operational tax, etc. 5 million. And we're hoping to make 5 million rand profit a year from this 200 million, which is whatever percentage. And then every year we'll either reinvest or we'll then declare dividend. That's what people can expect from this business. But she's not speaking to that, which is what anyone who's run a decent business wants to know. There's something called a cost of living, which affects so many small business owners. You can have a small business that makes 30,000 rand a month profit. But if from that 30,000 gross profit that you make, you cost 30,000 or you live off 30,000 or 25,000, you have to subtract that money. You can't say 30,000 is how much we're making. Guys, we're going to make 30,000 because it's not true. You still have to pay for yourself. And when you're running a business, the paying for yourself is your salaries and. In the mutual bank, the depositors who are going to be the shareholders are going to get to vote because you get a vote. And they might not want Nthabeleng to be the CEO. And they may not want the employees to earn a certain amount of money. And they may not want certain budgets for marketing. That's how it works. But people don't know this. Unfortunately, I see this even in government. Government is meant to serve the people. You vote for them in. You decide how much of your tax you want used. Cyril Ramaphosa, Tito Mboweni, Pravin Gordhan, everyone else, they cannot dictate to you because it's your government. You voted them in. If you're not happy with how they're running Eskom, if you're not happy with the tax rates, if you're not happy with any other decisions like SAA that they've just sold in a dodgy manner, you can either vote them out or there are channels for you to say, we would like to contest this. AfriForum has shown us this, the EFF has shown us this, the DA has shown this. You can open court cases, raise money and say, I want to sue the ANC, I want to sue government, I want to sue the guys in Eskom, I think they're lying to us, I think they're doing the wrong thing. And you can change that because it's your government. You can say, I want politicians to actually earn 5,000 rand a month, or I want them to earn the average wage, which is 3,600 per month. We can decide that. But you guys don't know because you're outsmarted by politicians and because you lack political literacy and you don't own your citizenship and you don't own your responsibilities as a citizen that votes, that pays tax, that has a voice. So in the same way, a lot of banks, a lot of JSE listed companies, which are public entities, even a mutual bank, you might put in 500,000, but you don't know how powerful you are to decide on the name, to decide on the CEO, to decide on the operations. You might find that a bunch of smart white guys, a bunch of smart Indian Chinese guys will put money into YWBN mutual bank. They'll put in a big chunk and earn high voting rights. And after they've earned high voting rights, They'll go and they'll vote out Nthabeleng, vote out her team, and they'll put themselves as the bosses. Last night, I watched an interview with Dr. Sam Mutswenyane, who, along with the chairman of NAVCOC, Dr. Richard Maponya, they set up the first black bank, which is African Bank, with R1 million. But he was explaining that they got help from Barclays in England, and he explained that one of the requirements from the Reserve Bank is they were forced to have people from all the big banks to come and sit on their board. And once they got those people from the other banks, their competitors, to come sit on the board, those people gave out loans to their friends that were in farms, or that were in farming at least, or in agriculture. And when the African bank started seeing problems, it's because of a lot of these farmers that were failing to pay back their loans that they were given by their friends who were on the board, who came from other banks, onto this African bank. So similarly, you might find white guys, Jewish, Muslim, whatever, will come and join YWBN. Oh, they've got a license. Let's come and steamroll them. We'll put in the bulk of the money and get the bulk of the voting rights, vote them out, put a Muslim CEO, put a Jewish chairman, and then build a white mutual bank from this work that they've set up, because these people look dizzy. They don't really know what they're doing, and they don't know their rights. We know our rights. We know how to play the game. We're going to steamroll them. It's about to be a party. Very, very important. We had VBS. We didn't learn the lessons, not from their corruption, just from understanding how do you build a mutual bank? Vendor building society. How do you build a mutual bank? What are the rights and regulations? What's needed? Because what's going to happen with Nthabeleng is if they don't learn the lesson, this thing is going to crash and they will have learned nothing, and they'll never be able to open a bank in the future. They'll go around telling people, opening a bank is rubbish and whites, and because they refuse to learn. The money game in South Africa is largely a white game, but it's a game. And with any game, you can learn the rules. Yes, white people, Jewish people, the guys in Switzerland, the Rothschilds, whoever you want to call, yes, they constantly shift the goalposts. Constantly. It happened in Zimbabwe. It's happening with cryptocurrency. Elon Musk is showing us that what you call a stable cryptocurrency is a pile of bullshit, because I can tweet once and affect your life. I can tweet once and have your house repossessed. They're constantly shifting the goalposts. So you can learn the games, the rules of the game. But learn the rules so that you know when the goalposts are shifted. You know when you're being cheated. And all of us can understand that, no, the ANC is not allowed to do that. The state is not allowed to do that. No, that CEO is not allowed to do that. Marcus Jooste was not allowed to do that. No, the mutual bank can't do that, because we know our rights and responsibilities. But we refuse to be educated because education is hard. It's easier to be entertained. It's easier to laugh at expensive letters than understand the fundamentals. People have been listening and watching Nthabeleng, but I can promise you, 90 to 95 to 99% of everyone who's watching this story hasn't learned anything. Hasn't learned anything. All they're doing is watching a black girl who speaks in a sort of a clumsy way. They're just watching her blabber and they're laughing and they're posting memes and gifs. It's funny, expensive letter. Hey, this is like a triple M. We're about to lose money, VBA. But you're learning nothing. If I ask you in future, what did you learn? Do you know how to set up a mutual bank? Do you know the requirements? Do you know which channels to use? Nothing. You learned nothing. Black people lost the land to superior weapons, to a small group of white people. Today, 2021, black people that lost the land, what did you learn? Did you get the weapons that the whites had? Did you learn their strategy? Do you know how to colonize? Do you know how to, after colonizing people, soften them with religion and get them to forgive, like a Jesus Christ that turns the other cheek? Did you learn anything, or did you learn nothing? Which means you're constantly going to be bashed because you're not learning the fucking lessons. And you're just a clown. And while you're laughing at Nthabeleng, the rest of the world is actually laughing at you because you're the idiot. So I wish Nthabeleng and her team greatest of luck. Unfortunately, I'm not very optimistic about how things will turn unless they hire better people to run their team, or unless they get steamrolled by better people. I'm not happy with the amounts that they are asking for. I hope soon we'll learn how much the real setup cost will be, because they haven't said them. I hope they won't shoot for 5 billion. I think it's ridiculous. I think they should be targeting 50 to 100 million rand at least in working capital, and then start off gently and grow from there. I hope they'll be more honest in the remaining requirements from the Reserve Bank and the registrar in terms of what's short. I hope they'll show people the authorization letter. I hope they'll be more clear in telling people that once you put money in, you can never get it out. All you can do is, after the lock-in period, you can sell your shares to the next person, or maybe back to the bank. Maybe at some point the bank will allow you to sell back to the members that already exist. And realistically, the financial projections. Because after the financial projections have been put out, you need to know, is this mutual bank going to make me more money than putting shares in ABSA, FNB, Standard Bank, Nedbank, potentially a Time Bank, Capitec, whatever the case may be? Or is it going to make me worse money? Or am I going to make no money? Which means I'm just doing this for shits and giggles. It's fun. I want to be like, I was there when they tried to set up the first mutual bank or the first black female mutual bank. I don't understand how they came up with the valuation. I don't know if you're allowed to value a mutual bank just on your own decision and not based on deposits. From what I read, it sounds like if you deposit the most money, you have the most votes, which means you have the highest share. It's your money that's being used to generate cash. So I don't understand. And maybe it's because I don't know as well as I should. Maybe the Banking Regulation and the Mutual Banks Act is not as clear as I think it is. Maybe there's a lot we need to test. I'd like to end off by saying this. I still believe the biggest solution for Black Africans in South Africa are Stokvels. 5 friends, 10 friends, 20 family members, whatever the case may be, put in 50 Rand, 100 Rand, 500 Rand, 1,000 Rand, 10,000 Rand every month, every half a year, every quarter, every year. Collect that money. 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, 2 million Rand. Take that money, buy assets. What's an asset? A spade, a fork, gardening fork, an Uber, a franchise, a flat, something that can generate money for you. Mobile toilets, mobile fridges, those are assets. A tent, abantu ababoleka ama-tent. Buy assets. Take those assets and generate money from them and let that money come back into your little stokvel and use that money to buy more assets or spend some of that money on each other. Declare a dividend. Say, guys, we made some money this year from our tents, from our mobile fridges. Let's go on holiday to Durban this December as a little stokvel. Once your stokvel is fully functioning, maybe there's 30 of you now. You guys have got 500,000 in assets. Your assets are making you cash. Speak about your success and try and find similar-minded stokvels out there and say, guys, let's meet. Let's have a meeting and see if we can merge and take our 50 members and your 100 members and have 150 members and take our 500,000 and your 2 million and have 2.5 million and see if we can go to the bank and get loans and buy bigger assets and move from a flat to a small complex to a huge shopping center together as a group and build something. And stop chasing this rubbish of black banks. The regulation is bullshit. The regulation is tough, and it's systems that have been set up by the big banks who currently own African Bank today, which Usandile Zungu of the Black Business Council and Izigo Investments, they are trying to see if they can buy the stake of the banks from African Bank and turn it into a black bank again. Who the fuck cares if it's a black bank? Is it serving the black masses? Is it giving black people education, financial literacy? Is it giving them working capital to build something? Is it teaching them how to export so they can bring money back into this country and uplift South Africa as a nation? But the regulations that YWBN, or even if it's going to be called Nthabeleng Likotsi Mutual Bank, is that bank going to have different regulation from everyone else? Probably not, which means they're going to be rejecting most people, like all the other banks. All the other banks are burning to get this 475 billion Rand, but they're struggling because the risk is so high. And when you're dealing with high risk, it means you're burning cash. You're losing money. They don't want that. This mutual bank claims it's going to be able to burn and lose money, where maybe the NEF, the National Empowerment Fund, has failed, where maybe CIFA has failed, where maybe the IDC has failed. Who are you? How are you going to shoot the lights out and find the black Mark Zuckerbergs and Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezos and the Jack Ma's? Who are you? We don't know, but time will tell. Stokvels are the solution to black people, first and foremost. Secondly, in life, you have to fight and you have to have high self-confidence. Don't ever take a beating. Keep going. Jacob Zuma Msholozi, Boza, was taking the most heat. 20 kids, 4 or 5 wives, getting hit by the DA, by the EFF, Ubabaka Tutuzani, getting smashed by the white media, getting accused of corruption with the Guptas and he kept smiling, kept laughing, and he kept going, and he kept fighting. He's still fighting to this day. High self-confidence, a fighter. And the world belongs to fighters and people with high self-confidence. And I hope you will be one of those people. Educate yourself, become stronger, become smarter, and let's build a better world for our families, for our community, and for the world at large. Love you guys very much, and I hope this video has added value to your life. This is Penny Wilder Black Pen. Cheers.